Welcome to Movie Speeching. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take good care. Snake in the Eagle's Shadow is the name of the movie. Please like and subscribe for every update. The Snake Fist clan specializes in the snake fighting style of Kung Fu. For the past 100 years, there has been a rivalry between the Serpent Fist clan and the Eagle Claw clan, which specializes in Eagle-style fighting. The Eagle tribe's mission is to kill all members of the Snake tribe and completely abolish their fighting style. As the film begins, one of the last survivors of the Snake clan is challenged by Shin Quan, the master of the Eagle Claw. The two fight with their own fighting styles, but Eagle Claw is clearly stronger than Snake Fist. Shin Quan vows to kill his enemies and end the legacy of the Serpent Fist. However, it turns out that the master of the Snake Fist, Pai, is still alive. Shin Quan kills his opponent and begins searching for his last and only opponent, Pai. Meanwhile, Pai lives a simple life as a beggar. He makes little money and lives on leftovers. One day, while he was sleeping in a hammock made of a single rope, someone burst into his room and startled him. It turns out that the landlord brought in thugs to evict Pai because he hadn't paid his rent for a month. They search the room for money, but find a snake instead. While the two are distracted, Pai quickly grabs a bowl and chopsticks and runs outside. He is surrounded and attacked by gangsters. Using a bowl and chopsticks, the Pai defends itself effortlessly. Even if the enemy has a knife, his chopsticks can overwhelm the enemy. One of the thugs attempts to pursue Pai and encounters Eagle Claw member Su Chen. As the thugs explain Pai, Su Chen realizes that they have just encountered a member of Snake Fist, but by then Pai is long gone. Next, we get to know the main character of this movie, Chen Fu. He is an orphan and taken in by Li, a short-tempered and eccentric Kung Fu teacher. Li deceives an innocent student and makes a profit by promising him that he will become an expert in Kung Fu, even though his skills are average. He often physically abuses Chen Fu and makes him do all the cleaning. Chen Fu wants to learn fighting, but even though he works at a Kung Fu school, he has no opportunity to train. One morning, while the students were practicing as usual, Li was resting. Chen Fu observes them and tries to imitate their movements, forgetting to sweep the floor. Li noticed him hitting himself with a stick. To further worry the boy, he walked around with white powder under his shoes and had to sweep the floor twice. Li Qian then uses Fu as a prop to teach his students new ways of fighting. He orders Chen Fu not to dodge his attacks and punches him as an example. This is not the first time he uses Chen Fu to look like a Kung Fu master. Chen Fu is frequently beaten and has no other means of making a living. The only person who sympathized with him was the school cook, who offered to treat his wounds with medicine. Pai ends up outside another Kung Fu school in town and decides to rest. Inside, a wealthy businessman and his overweight son Robban come to see if the school is good enough to accept Robban. The principal boasts that his trainees are the best in town, except for Robban. The principal boasts that his trainees are the best in town, but Robban is not convinced. He asks his students to break his 3 stacked bricks with one blow. The student did as he was told and managed to defeat everything. However, once he disappeared from Robban's sight, he let out a cry of pain as he held his hand, which began to turn blue. After a while, Robban tried to shake his hand, but he realized that he was just pretending to be tough. Father and son go to enroll in Li's school instead. Later, the students see Pai resting outside and vent their frustrations by hitting him. Pai doesn't fight back because he's afraid someone will notice his presence. Chen Fu sees this and stops himself from harming the poor old man. When the students attack him, Pai uses a trick to make Chen Fu fight. He stands behind Chen Fu and pushes him around so that he can dodge the attacks. During the fight, a Russian religious missionary notices Pai and rushes towards him. In reality, he is a spy who has been appointed by the Eagle Claw clan to find and eliminate the last surviving member of the Snake clan. Pai notices him and runs away with Chen Fu before he can be caught. Following that, Chen Fu brings Pai to the school and makes tea for him. He then asks the old man to let him stay the night since he must be injured. Pai is touched by his kindness. Meanwhile, Robban and his girlfriend's father meet Li, who brags about her educational background. Robban does not believe his words and asks her to break the 3 bricks she has stacked. Li laughs at him and she says she will show him a real fight and not just break bricks. He calls Chen Fu and orders him to endure a beating from one of his students. An excited Rob Ban watches the battle begin. Chen Fu is beaten again, but he is unable to avoid the attack, fearing that the next day he will starve to death. In the end, Rabin is impressed by Chen Fu's opponent's skills and agrees to accept admission to the school. Chen Fu returned to Pai with several cuts and bruises on his face. Embarrassed, he runs to his room. The cook tells Pai that being beaten is a daily occurrence for Chen Fu. He is used as a mannequin to maintain the school's reputation. To ease his mood, Pai puts a bowl on his head and asks him to get it. Chen Fu tries his best, but Pai is too nimble and he never lets him touch the bowl. The next morning, Chen Fu wakes up and finds Pai missing. He notices a message posted on the wall that vaguely mentions his evasive abilities. Outside, Pai also drew footprint patterns for Chen Fu to follow and learn yesterday's tricks. In fact, that technique was the basis of the snake fist technique. Using the messages and instructions, Chen Fu understands what Pai is trying to teach him and begins practicing. He is a gifted fighter and learns the technique in a short period of time. Somewhere else, Pai bumps into the Russian missionary and follows him to find out his true intentions. However, he soon realizes it is a trap when Su Chen of the Eagle Claw stops him and challenges him to a fight. The missionary and Su Chen move against Pai, but he manages to trick them into escaping. However, he ends up seriously injured after the commotion. At the same time, Rabin's father comes to the school to check on his son's progress. Li asks Chen Fu to let him beat Laban because he wants to use him as a puppet again. But this time, Chen Fu used Pai's technique to avoid all the attacks. He even makes Laban bump into his father, making both fall to the ground. In the end, Laban and his father run away to the other school, and angeredly hits Chien Fu repeatedly for humiliating him. Chien Fu runs away from the school and coincidentally bumps into an injured Pai. He takes him to a shed and dresses his wounds. Elsewhere, Su Chen meets Shan Quan, a high-ranking official of the Eagle Claw clan, and tells him everything about his encounter with Pai. Chen Fu is then seen taking care of Pai until it gets better. Learning that Chen Fu can only learn techniques by drawing, Pai agrees to train him in snake kung fu. The only conditions are that Chen Fu does not call him master, that he does not use his training to cause violence, and that he does not interfere when Pai fights his enemies. Chen Fu accepts all conditions and begins his training. He works hard day and night and learns the techniques in no time. Over the weeks, Pai gives him more difficult tasks, but he shows growth and perseverance like no other. One day, he is lazily sweeping the floor in the school when Li sees him and decides to trouble him as always. He steps on white powder, but before he can step on the floor, Chien Fu slides the mop under his feet. Li tries his best to trick Chien Fu, but he is quicker because of the training. As they are struggling, a group from the rival school barges in. The leader of the group is the new 3 provinces champ in Kung Fu. He is furious because all other schools in the town sent him gifts to show respect, but Li didn't do so. Hence, he challenges Li and his fellow teacher to a match. Li is reluctant, but since all his students are watching, he has no way but to accept. The state champion doesn't waste time before beating them both up, proving that they are just a bunch of frauds who only know basic knowledge about Kung Fu. Chien Fu wants to help them, but since he has promised Pai that he will only use his skills for defense, he stays out of the fight. After the two are defeated, the students head to their rival school to follow the state champion. Later that day, while Chen Fu was cleaning, Teacher Han, a former teacher at the school, returned from a trip. He was principal until Li took over. Angry at losing to his opponent, he goes to the other school and challenges them to the state championship. Both sides engage in a fierce battle with equal skill. But in the end, the state champion defeated Master Hang and still didn't stop attacking him. Finally, Chen Fu intervened, further angering the champion. He attacks him several times and tells him to fight back. Chen Fu is now able to use his training as a defense and starts fighting without hesitation. Everyone is shocked to see a mere caretaker making life difficult for the state champion. Master Han was equally surprised, because I didn't know that Chen Fu could fight. Shen Quan is also watching her from her front door. She sees Chen Fu's technique and recognizes it as a snake fist technique. She is sure that Chen Fu knows about Pai, as only one member of her clan remains alive. After defeating the champion, Chen Fu and Han return to school. At home, Chen Fu finds a letter from Pai saying he will be away for a few days. Enclosed in the letter was a book about snake fighting. Chen Fu rushes to the hut to see Pai, but the old man has already left. At that moment, he asks if Shen Quan, who has been chasing him until now, knows Pai. When Chen Fu confirms this, Shen Quan lies that he is Pai's friend, and he asks Chen Fu to tell Pai when he returns from his trip. He also tries to keep his arrival a secret to Pai, as he wants to surprise an old friend. The naive Chen Fu believes him and agrees to help him. When he returns home, he sees his cat fighting a snake. Although snakes may seem more dangerous at first glance, it turns out that they are actually weaker than a cat's legs. This gave Chen Fu the idea to combine the foot technique with the snake fist technique to make it more dangerous. Elsewhere, Pai returns to the city and is immediately confronted by Su Chen. First, Su Chen pretends to be dead and attacks him with a knife. He believes Pai was stabbed, but it turns out he was ready to evade the attack. They get into a fight and Pai overpowers and kills him with his expertise. He then meets Chen Fu, who is overjoyed to have him back. They ask the cook for tea, but the man mixes poison in the tea. At that moment, Chen Fu remembered Shen Quan and hurriedly told him that Pai had arrived. However, when they returned to look for him, Pai had already run away. Shen Quan follows him, predicting his destination, and Chen Fu follows them. On the way, Chen Fu is stopped by a Russian missionary who attempts to kill him. They get into a fight and the missionary gains the upper hand due to his sword. Although his clothes were torn, Chen Fu was still able to defeat him in the end. Pai meets Shen Quan elsewhere. He is tired of running and he wants to fight to end centuries of conflict between the clans. The battle began and at first they appeared to be similar in expertise. However, Shen Quan quickly overpowered him and attempted to kill him when Chen Fu got in her way. To save his master, he asked Shen Quan to fight in his place. Pai tries to stop Chen Fu, who he knows is not trained enough to defeat Shen Quan, but he does not yield. Soon they clashed with each other, and Chen Fu soon managed to scratch his opponent's face with his new invention. Cat Claw Technique creates a unique special move that combines Snake Fist and Cat Claw, and defeats Hawk Claw in no time. In the end, Shen Quan is also defeated. As the master and disciple are about to leave, the cook approaches and tries to stab Chen Fu. Pai briefly stops him and asks him why he is doing this. It turns out that he was also a spy for the Washism clan. Chen Fu knows they will die because of the poison he gave them earlier, so he laughs. But Chen Fu reveals that he changed the tea because it was too hot. In the final scene, the cook recalls drinking poison tea. The poison's effect starts to show and he dies instantly. In the last scene, Pai compliments Chen Fu for inventing such a powerful new technique. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video.